Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the news briefing for this Wednesday. We'll get started with COVID-19 information. If you have questions for Dr. Moreno, go ahead and put them in chat. And here's Dr. Moreno. Good afternoon, Dr. Moreno.
Hey, man. Good afternoon.
Our first question for you today. According to the county website, the COVID-19 case, test positivity, and hospitalization rates are all up from a month ago. Are we seeing an upward trend, or are these rates considered stable?
Yeah, thanks, Maya. So for the month of January and February, the rates that we posted on our website are considered stable. I think that's just reflective of a variety of things. The current variants are circulating, the percent of individuals that are considered fully vaccinated, and the time of year. So it's still important for people to remember that we're still in a pandemic. There's still COVID out there, and anyone who's eligible to receive their booster should consider getting a booster. If you have any questions about whether or not a booster is right for you, you could certainly check with a healthcare provider.
Thank you. Next question. Of those hospitalized with COVID-19 in Monterey County, currently 29, are they mostly unvaccinated and older?
Yeah, thank you. I don't have that information. The data shows individuals, though, that are in the hospital who test positive for COVID-19, whether they're because of COVID-19 infection and illness, or whether they're for some other reason and happen to test positive for COVID-19.
Thank you. Next question. As the county, state, and nation move out of COVID-19 emergency declarations, what is the most important thing people need to remember to avoid getting ill from the virus?
Thanks, Matt. So big picture is we're still in a pandemic, which is a virus that continues to spread across the globe. So no matter where if you're here, you stay here, you travel, you're in a pandemic part of the world. So the thing to remember is that there are multiple things you can do to protect yourself. If you're staying local, stay home if you're sick, get vaccinated, wash your hands frequently, and follow public health recommendations. If you're going to be traveling, remember, wherever you go, we're still in a pandemic, wherever you go. So one thing that's still recommended, even though probably not required in most countries, would be to wear a well-fitting face covering, because extended period of times in public transportation conveyances could lead to an exposure to COVID-19.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. Any other additional questions for Dr. Moreno today before we leave the COVID-19 topic? Seeing none, thank you, as usual, Dr. Moreno, for joining us and providing information.
Certainly, you're welcome.
This past January, Juan Hidalgo joined the county as its new agricultural commissioner, and he came right in time for some pretty wicked winter storms that we had in January. We have him here today, and he is going to share some information on what his office is working on related to recovery and information gathering. Plus, during this time of rising prices, his office, which is a sealer of weights and measures, assures that you get what you pay for when it comes to the gas pump or the cash register. So it's a very important role of his office. Good afternoon, Juan.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction. Certainly, it was quite the time to begin my work here with the county, and it's a tremendous honor to have the opportunity to serve as agricultural commissioner and also sealer of weights and measures. And I think for those attending today's meeting, just a little background on myself. I was previously the agricultural commissioner and sealer of weights and measures in neighboring Santa Cruz County, a role that I served in for 7 years. But I was with the office for about 18 years over there in Santa Cruz County. So it's great to be here, great to be able to work with great staff here at the office, at the commissioner's office, and certainly to be able to support agriculture here in Monterey County, work with our growers, and certainly work with our communities. one of the things that we do as agricultural commissioners when we have disasters is to be able to assess what the impact of those disasters are on agricultural commodities. And certainly that January storms were no exception. And, in working with our growers and reaching out to them and putting out surveys for them to give us an idea of what the impacts are, we were able to get an assessment of the cost, not only direct cost of what growers had suffered damage-wise to their commodities and to their farms, but also we tried to project and estimate, is this going to be an ongoing cost to them? Because certainly when you have flooding, it's going to take a while before growers are able to go back and wait for the waters to recede and be able to go back and plant in those locations. So anticipating and working with our growers to give us some projections is absolutely essential. And during those surveys, working with our growers here in the county, we estimated that they were anticipated $324 million in commodity losses, and an additional about 10 million in damage to equipment on farms and infrastructure. And why that number is important is that we're able to work with our state and federal agencies so that if there's any federal funding available to support our growers to be able to recuperate, they need to have that data to be able to get a sense for what is the damage to our county. And we have been successful in doing that. And as part of that, federal grants have been made available to our growers. We have emergency loans that growers in our county can apply for and be able to get some relief to help them get back on their feet and be able to recover from some of the losses that they had during the flood events. So that's one of the main things that my office does. We certainly oversee a lot of other agricultural programs that support our growers in our communities. Certainly exporting commodities out of our county. We're one of the biggest agricultural counties in California. We've ranked in the top 5. We're the #1 producing lettuce producer in California. And so exportation of those goods, not only supports our communities here in California, but the rest of the nation. So making sure that we're able to export our commodities through inspections, verifying that those commodities are free from pests is a big deal for us, because certainly we want everybody to be able to enjoy what our growers produce here, but certainly other states don't want to get some of our local pests going over to their state. So we work with our growers and make sure that our growers are following practices and regulations that minimize those impacts to other areas. But it was mentioned earlier too, my office also, as the sealer of weights and measures, we oversee and regulate the use of commercial devices. And these are things that many of us as consumers don't really think about so much. When you go to the store and you buy a pound of apples, how do you know that you're paying for a pound? How do you know that you're getting a pound? When they put it on the scale, what level of confidence do we have to know that that device is actually accurate? And that's where we come in. I think of weights and measures as a consumer protection program, where we're out there to protect all of us, all of our communities, to make sure that they get what they pay for, as it was mentioned earlier. So we inspect all commercial scales in the marketplace to make sure that they're accurate. When you go buy gasoline, especially now that gas prices have been on the rise again, and gas has been so expensive for the last couple of years, how do you know that you're getting that 1 gallon of fuel that you would pay for? Well, I would say that our communities can feel confident that, those devices are accurate. We have staff that go out and inspect those devices to ensure that they're accurate. And in the few situations when they're not, we have the ability to place those devices out of order, and owners are required to correct and fix those devices before they can be used again. So there's a process to be able to do this, and making sure that our communities are safe and getting what they pay for. The other thing that we do is we have what we call price verification. We go to several stores in the county to make sure that companies are actually keeping up with price changes, which you know, with employee shortages, there has been an issue and a rise in incorrect pricing at stores. So if you buy an item and it's listed at a certain price on the shelf, that's what you should be paying for. And in some instances, we see that if there was a price change and the price went up, especially because of some of the inflation that we have seen in the last year, if the store cannot keep up with that price and they increase the price and you go up to the register, then you get overcharged, right? If something was $1 and maybe they're charging you $1.50 for it, that's an overcharge. That's something that we also get involved with. We want to make sure that stores are doing their part, keeping up with their prices, and making sure that consumers are not overpaying, for their goods. So just to give you a sense, just really quick here for some of the work that my office does.
A little bit more about the price check that you were just talking about, and the regulating the devices. How does your staff go out and check these? Do you do like surprise random visits? How is that accomplished?
Great question. Yes, everything is an unannounced inspection. We have a list of all of these businesses in our database, and we have staff that schedule out which areas they're going to be going out to. So we just show up, and we have in some situations specialized equipment to be able to do some of this work. In the case of scales, we have actual certified weights. We have to use certified weights that have been double checked at the state level and at the federal level to make sure that they meet the requirements for some of the really fine tolerances that exist with the use of some of these devices. So this is completely unannounced. We just show up and work with the managers at the store to give us the ability to do our work and check the devices.
And then back to earlier discussions about the storm damage. There was a survey that went out for farmers and ranchers to share information with you. Is that survey still ongoing? And has there been any new information that has come out in the last several weeks since the initial results were announced?
Yes, great question. So the survey was up on the Agricultural Commissioner's website through the end of February. And at that point, the link was taken down. We did receive a few additional growers that participated and gave us some additional information on damages that their operations had incurred. Fortunately, some of the damages, in the grand scheme of things, they do add to the totality of what we initially calculated. But we're looking from the additional service we got an increase of about $3 to $4 million in damages. So I mean, it's a lot, but when you look at 320 or 330 millions in commodity damages, it's just a small addition to that total amount.
But certainly getting a clearer picture of the impacts of the storm. Now we have another rain system coming in, and people are a little concerned about those fields that may be near waterways. How do you advise or support growers in anticipation of potential damage?
Yeah, I think, growers are going to have to make an assessment of their proximity to some of these areas that are prone to flooding, and certainly, some of the impacts from the storms in January. Some of those things have not been fixed yet. It does take a little bit of time. The ground has been really wet, and those are things that may prevent some additional precautions from taking place on the farm. In particular, those areas close to the Salinas River in South County, where we had some levees that may have been impacted. I think those growers, unfortunately, are probably at a higher risk to have flooding again this time around. And it all depends on how much rain we do receive. Also, with any luck, we'll be okay, but it's hard to say right now. I know they're calling for a significant amount of rain in the next couple of days. So I think working with our growers and referring to them to some of our local agencies that can help to provide some additional support and information, and certainly for the growers that were impacted and maybe in need of some assistance, to be able to do some of this work, making sure that they understand what is available to them and who they can reach out to be able to begin some of those processes.
And would that include the safety processes that growers have to go through? Because if these fields were inundated, they can't just immediately go back in and plant a crop. There's a process.
There is a process, and I think, you know, as far as safety, I think we're looking at food safety, right? And you know, leafy vegetables are highly regulated here in California, and so our growers are required to follow those requirements. Right now, there's some restrictions on how long growers have to wait before they can plant back fields that were flooded. Certainly, those growers that were next to the Salinas River, if the Salinas River flooded their fields, there's at least a minimum 60-day requirement. They have to test the soil to make sure that it's free from pathogens before they can go ahead and plant. So, you know, some of those growers are probably still waiting to be able to be clear and be able to be in compliance with those requirements. And so that's an additional thing that's gonna potentially be at risk here with the rain if more flooding from the Salinas River impacts some of those areas, and additional potential delays in those growers' ability to be able to plant on those fields.
Thank you for that. Any other questions for Juan today while we have him on the briefing? Seeing none, thank you, Juan, so much for coming, introducing yourself, and sharing this great information. Welcome to Monterey County.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us on the briefing this week. Our next briefing is next week. We'll see you then.